This video goes over step 2, or the forms that are required before you start observing. So once you've received confirmation of your placement and your criminal background check is cleared, then it's start to set up times and a place for you to start to observe. And so the forms that are required at this step is one, the ED1 or the approval form. And again, that's a Google Docs submission. And so what that tells us is where you were placed, what times you think you may be observing, and things of that nature. And again, as a Google Doc, when you get to that final thank you for submitting your form, please take a screenshot of that and submit that into the submission box to receive credit. Your ED Form 2 is something that should be gone over with your mentor teacher. So in your ED Form 2, you're going to create 3 objectives or learning objectives for your observation time. So what are the 3 things that you want to get out of it? What is it you want to learn from your observations? Mrs. Strange does grade this form, and so some of the things that she's looking for is, one, is it measurable? You know, can you actually realistically observe something like that or learn something like that during these 16 hours of observation? 2, she's looking that they tie back to course concepts. So if you're taking Intro to Special Pops, then your learning objectives should be based on the nature of that course, about race, class, gender, socioeconomic status, things of that nature. If you're taking Intro to Education, then there's a whole host of things: discipline, cooperative learning strategies, lesson planning. But your learning objectives form needs to be reviewed and gone over with your mentor teacher, and it does require that your mentor teacher sign off on it. Now, you're creating these learning objectives for 2 reasons. One, you are going to use them to make some observations and actually learn about something that's related to the course. So if you want to know more about discipline, then maybe that would be one of your learning objectives. If you want to learn how to properly put together groups of students, maybe that's a second one. If you want to see if teachers favor boys over girls, you know, something like that, you could look at that as one of your learning objectives. So one, it's going to help guide what your observations while you're observing, along with your focus hour guide, which I'll get to in a further step. But 2, at the end, when you submit your reflective summary, you're going to go back to each one of those learning objectives and tell me exactly, you know, did you accomplish that? Did you learn what you intended to set out to learn? So that's step 2, is once you've received your placement and your criminal background check is clear, you're going to submit the ED1 approval form telling us where you got placed. And number 2, you're going to review that learning objectives form with your mentor teacher and then submit that again. So please scan and submit, as Mrs. Strange does have to print those. Now, the question I most often get on the learning objectives form is, you know, do I have to do this before I start observing? Ideally, yes, that you would do that before you start observing. But if you want to go in the very first day early and meet with your mentor teacher, review the learning objectives, and have your mentor teacher sign off, that would be fine too. You just need to get it submitted ASAP, not at the end of the semester, because again, this is the document that should be a portion of what's guiding your observations throughout the 16 hours. So again, there's an FAQ at the bottom of this step. If you have, you know, any other questions, you can always contact me.